you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Local Pension Board. And a particular welcome to Rob Thomas, whose first meeting as an attendee this is. So welcome, Rob. And on a much sadder note, this is the first meeting we'll have had in a long time without the presence of Dave White, who I imagine everybody knows by now sadly died not long after retiring from the board. Very, very sad circumstances, and I'm sure everybody will have their own fond memories of David and his contributions to these meetings. Through the good offices of our clerk, I have signed a letter on behalf of the board, which has been sent to David's family. So with that, with David very much in our thoughts, let's move on to the agenda. The first item is declaration of interests, and I'd like to declare that I'm a member of the local government pension scheme and therefore have a personal interest in all the items of the agenda. Does anybody else, any members of the board, first of all, want to declare?
Sorry, Chairman. There is apologies for absence.
Oh, I'm
agenda item 1.
There's one apology, Chair, from Councillor Ryland Doyle.
Thank you very much for that, Jeff.
Okay.
And if my declaration can still stand. And Councillor Noyle, I think you were indicating.
Thank you. Yes, I'm a member of the local government scheme as well, so declaring interest in that. Thank you.
Any further declarations from members of the board?
Rob Thomas. Yeah, Rob Thomas. I'm a member of the local government pension scheme as well.
Thank you very much, Rob. And then officers present.
Yes, same as myself, Chair. I'm a member of the local government pension scheme. Thank you.
Chairman, similarly, I'm a member of the scheme as well.
And me, Chair, Melissa Perry. Apologies, sorry.
Sorry, I'm a member of the local government pension scheme. Thank you.
Likewise, Chair. I had my camera off earlier, so.
Thank you. Any further declarations forthcoming? I'm trying to scan all these thumbnails for any indications. I can't see any.
No, nobody has, Chair.
And I know, Jeremy, that you've sent around the form to record our declarations on. So swapping screens again. Next item is the minutes of the last meeting held back on the 5th of January. If we go through them, I'm happy to take any matters arising and accuracy at the same time. So agenda item 3, page 1. I've now got the minutes on my screen, so speak up if you want to say anything. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, which is the final page. So could I have a proposer for accuracy, please?
Yeah, happy to propose.
Thank you very much, Councillor Noyle. And a seconder?
It was just yourself, Chair.
Yes, I think it doesn't actually have to be anybody who's present, as long as they're happy with the accuracy. I'd be happy to second them. So all those in favour of their accuracy? And anybody against? Anybody abstaining? Rob, I don't know if what your vote on that was.
Yeah, I voted for.
Thank you very much. I think the from my perspective, the camera only zooms in on you while your microphone's on. I think that, Jeremy, is unanimous that we're in
Yeah,
that
that's-
we're approving
thank you, Chair.
them. If you've caught that,
Yeah.
and welcome to Rosemary. We've just finished the minutes, Rosemary. I don't know if you had anything that you wanted to raise us, anything arising out of those minutes.
Hi, yeah, no, that's the minutes are fine with me as well.
Thank you very much indeed. Perhaps then we can move on to the first proper item, which is of the agenda, which is the internal audit report. And Jeff, I think you're going to deal with well, everything on the agenda today.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, the reports you've got before you are a review and a summation of the internal audit reports undertaken during the year in respect of the pension funds, both sides of the business in respect of the pension fund, i.e. pension fund investments and the administration of the pension fund. Just to remind you, two sides of the business. Side that deals with the members, i.e., paying their benefits, dealing with the beneficiaries, dealing with employers, collecting contributions, dealing with queries, etc. is the administration side of things. Then the other side of the business is looking after the assets, i.e., the investment side of things, ensuring that we get an appropriate level of return, ensuring that the funding level is acceptable. Implementing the investment strategy, ensuring all the investments are safeguarded, etc. So there's two main areas of the business, and they are both subject to external audit on an annual basis. And I think the minutes referenced the report that Audit Wales presented to committee, and subsequently I presented the findings to the board last year. However, Swansea Council is the administering authority to the pension fund, also undertakes regular internal audit reports and in internal audit investigations, and very much that the report of Audit Wales very much relies on the work that internal audit do during the year to ensure that the internal controls are appropriate and safeguarding controls are in place and work as they should, and they can rely on them when they do their external audit, thereby creating a system of comfort and reliance on the internal control systems in place. So as I say, internal audit conducted their work during the year, and these findings are summated as appendices to this report. In summation, I'm pleased to say that the audit opinion for both reports are that they provide a high level of assurance, and as you can see in the appendix to the reports themselves, the levels of assurance that internal audits do give in their conclusions, and they range from high, substantial, moderate, and limited in descending order. So they both have a high assurance level rating. Obviously, they can't give you 100% assurance rating that no mistakes will ever occur or nothing happens that shouldn't happen. However, they're content that the levels of controls and the safeguards in place on both sides of the business can give those charged with governance a high level of assurance. You can see the types of testing that internal audit undertook in respect of both sides of the business. So I'll start with the investment side, and these are in relation to the reviews of the contractual relationships that we have with investment managers and those agreements, and ensuring that all transactions and contractual payments are made in line with those agreements, and the invoicing in respect of that. and the monitoring of fees which are directly debited from the fund, that they are in accordance with those agreements. Journal samples were also tested in respect of payments made in respect of the investments, and the testing provided and concluded that all those journals and fees paid had been correctly updated in the ledger. As far as the pension admin side of the business, and in terms of moving parts of the business, this is a side of the business which has more moving parts, because you're dealing with individuals, you're receiving individual payments, you're making payments to individuals. These individuals move house, their domestic arrangements change, they get divorced, etc., etc. So in terms of the potential for errors occurring in this side of the business, it's slightly higher risk in that regard. However, you can see again on page 13 the list of all the work and testing that internal audit did in respect of those key transactions, such as contributions received, the admin in respect of a new joiner to the scheme, the admin in respect of transferring values in, transferring values out, the admin in respect of when someone is fortunate enough to become a pensioner, and us recording those details accurately enough to be able to facilitate their first pension payment and their lump sum payment. So all the list of testing is outlined on page 13, 14, and 15. And as you can see, as I indicate, the potential for errors in all those different areas of the business is quite high. So it's very pleasing that the conclusion of the internal audit section was that they could provide a high level of assurance in respect of the control framework in respect of that, because just to remind the board, we do have 47,000 members within the scheme, and that's totaling actives, deferreds, and pensioners. So I think we've had a high rating for the last 3 internal audit reports, which is very pleasing. It was, hovering around the substantial, because obviously things, as I say, were slipping through the net, and we could do things better. But hopefully it's a journey of improvement, and I'm very pleased to say that Claire and the team, have really put in the hard yards in tightening the areas that in internal audits have recommended that we look at, and we've come out with a high rating this time as well. I'm happy to take, they're for information reports, Chairman, and happy to take any questions you have on either of them.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. I think you're correct to describe the report as very reassuring for us. And I'm sure that those involved can be very pleased with their contribution to the outcome as well. And perhaps you could pass on the board's congratulations to those involved. Any questions on this agenda item for Jeff?
Nothing from me.
I can't see anybody else indicating. Just 2 questions from me, Jeff. The first, I don't think I need to give the page reference, but the fund managers giving presentations to the committee, with the large number of fund managers we now have all the managers had the opportunity to give presentations to the committee yet?
Chairman, with the onset of pooling, you're quite right, Chairman, to indicate there are a lot of contractual relationships in play. However, since the onset of pooling, the main direct contractual relationship is largely with two counterparties in respect of our investments, and that's BlackRock and Russell Investments. On a risk adjusted basis of those two, I would suggest BlackRock is low risk. It's a passively invested fund. It's merely a function of tracking the indices outlined, and it's quite a mechanistic approach to investment. It's an index tracker. Where I think the added value in terms of the committee being able to question and challenge the investment managers on the active side, and that's Russell. And as I say, between them, they both manage over 75% of assets under management. As you were, Chairman, because you did take up the invitation to go and visit and the local asset that we had managed by Schroders Greencoat. In time, as those private assets come online and become more mature in that regard, there is an intention to have more interaction with those managers, but noting the long lead-in time to those, we're waiting until they become more mature, so that the interaction can be more meaningful. But on a risk-adjusted basis, the important people to speak to on a regular basis are Russell, because they manage the relationships and can give us information on the underlying managers in respect of both the active global equities fund and also the global active fixed income managers that we have. The other relationships that we have in the private market side of things are less material in quantum, and as I say, are very nascent in their investment cycle.
Thank you very much, Jeff. That was a comprehensive answer. The next question I had is around, it's page 21 of 254, the action plan. And I was slightly surprised to see the agreed action there, 2.1.2, being staff members to be reminded of the importance of accuracy of inputting data. I mean, the one thing we know about humans is inputting data, mistakes are going to be made, even with the most accurate of inputter. And I was slightly surprised that there was nothing from a more systems point of view that could be done there to, I don't know, check the inputs for reasonableness, etc. Are you able to tell us anything around that?
Sorry, Chairman, I was just looking in the full body of the report. If it makes a reference to the actual finding, etc., in the report, but no, it is this. You're quite right in identifying that that there is no way to capture that information from third parties directly. It is very much still a human oversight process to provide the final accuracy. For example, confirming names and addresses and details, etc. Although we do have it from the various payrolls, etc., and they come in on a feed. For example, we're reliant on that, and we think that's accurate. But if that underlying data then is incorrect, for example, I think there was an issue that came from one of our larger employers, one of the two larger employers, and the date of birth records that were held, and that only came to light when they actually retired. The actual date of birth that they had on the payroll system was incorrect. So there are issues like that you just, no matter how what systems you put in place or controls that you've got in place, they will slip through the net until there is that ultimate user responsibility and quality assurance provided at source, and the at source is the individual concerned when they did actually retire. So it's one of those thorny ones where I can't give you the assurance you're seeking, Chairman, in that we'll eliminate human error. It's the nature of the beast, I'm afraid, and we do train them. We do emphasize the importance of accuracy in that regard. However, we're all subject to making mistakes, I'm afraid, Chair.
Yes, and certainly from a personal perspective, I'm fully aware of that. Thank you very much, Jeff. Anything arising out of that anybody want to ask or say? I'm not seeing anything. So moving on to agenda item 5, the WPP business plan. Jeff, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. For the benefit of other local pension board members, the chairman is also a member of also as chair of our local pension board, is a member of the joint group of local pension board chairs of WPP. So the other member funds of WPP in Wales also have established a local pension board, and each chair is invited to a meeting, an engagement meeting with the WPP host authority on a regular basis. And the chairman yesterday attended that meeting, whereby as a group, the host authority presented this business plan in line with good practice. And any business organisation has a business plan outlining what its objectives for the forthcoming 12 months and longer, to be able to organise their resources and work plan for that period. And WPP is no different. What we've got before you here is the Wales Pension Partnership business plan for the period 2024-27. And I know later on in the agenda, in the closed part of the agenda, we'll go into a bit more detail about some of the more sensitive items on that business plan and the progress of that. So I shan't mention any more about the progress of those two items, subject to commercial sensitivity, because they're both subject to live tender processes. But in respect of the remainder of the business plan, as you can see there on page 31 of your packs, page 10 of the actual work plan itself, you can see that it starts outlining the schedule of work for both 24, 25, 25, 26, 26, 27 across all the different areas of the business. So in terms of governance, things in the pipeline for the remainder of this year are the oversight and advisor procurement process. Like ourselves, WPP as an entity has an advisor. That contract has been running for 5 years, and that is scheduled to be renewed in year, as are the voting engagement service providers, who are again due to be reviewed in year. As you can see there, on the bottom of page 31, launch of the real estate investment program, and that's one of the items that I'll talk about later on in closed session. If you turn over the page on page 32, complete operator contract procurement process and implement new operator contract. Again, that is subject to a live procurement process, and I'll update the board later on in closed session in respect of that. In terms of investments and reporting, you can see on the rest of page 32, you can see the climate-related TCFD reporting. That's the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures reporting. That's been ongoing for a long time, Chairman, as you're aware. We were due to get some guidance on the expectations for the local government pension scheme in respect of that this year. However, we're still awaiting that. So that's been on your radar screens for a while now. However, we're waiting for the formal guidance to outline the requirements in respect of that. But hopefully that will be implemented in year as well. And then, as you're all aware, your inboxes will probably be flooded from time to time with emails from WPP and from Karen inviting you to training, which again I'm thankful to all local pension board members for making the time and commitment to try and attend those sessions as and when they can. They are a bit dry, but you can see there the reference to the annual training plan and then the updated training sessions that there are due to be implemented in year. I don't think there's anything else really of note I need to bring to your attention in the service plan. But as you can see across those headings, there are, quite detailed and in-depth pieces of work which are scheduled to be undertaken during the three years. So the training plan is outlined in detail then on page 33. And I know some of them have already taken place in year. I think we had a market understanding and regulatory requirements update most latterly, and I do accept it was a very dry session, but it's important that the committee who are making decisions and you yourself as a local pension board who provide the oversight and scrutiny function are aware of these important areas of the business and can challenge and ask the difficult questions required. Outlined on page 34 is the budget. It's very much a collaborative agreement, an arrangement for WPP. It's a cost divided by 8. Functionality is not determined on how big an authority you are, etc. Is very much split on an equal basis in that regard. However, fees in respect of assets under management on a proportionate basis there. On page 35, then you can see a summary of the various funds when they were launched, various performance benchmarks, and which participating underlying constituent authority is invested in which fund. Happy to take any questions, Chairman, in respect of the business plan.
Any questions or indeed comments? I can't see any indications unless I'm missing anybody. Just to reiterate, Jeff, what you said, the training put on by the WPP, it can be dry depending on the topic and dare I say on the presenter as well. But there is some very superb training that's been delivered in the past, and I would recommend it to board members if they're considering attending. One thing that I'd reiterate, and I think it was mentioned by the other chairs yesterday, is the sooner the dates, if as much notice of the dates can be given, I'm sure that will be reflected in greater attendance. The more notice, the higher the attendance is likely to be.
Thank you, those chairmans. Thank you, those comments, Chairman. And it reminds me that hot off the press is the annual report guidance, which SIPFA have released these last few days, which is expected to inform the compilation of the 23-24 annual report and accounts. And the latest guidance does indicate that we need to outline the training diary and attendance of each member of the committee and local pension board members. So short of saying it's a name and shame type arrangement, it is definitely explicit in that annual report guidance that we need to disclose the attendance record of each local pension board member, pension fund committee member, not only of the meetings themselves, but what training they've received in year. So that sort of brings into sharp focus your comments, Chairman, about the importance of that training, but also the importance of trying to attend if you can.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, that's a strong hint to us as board members. And I think WPP do make it very easy to attend. I think almost without exception, all the training has been hybrid, so people can attend remotely as well. So they are trying to make it as easy as possible. Moving on then, the next item is a standing item, the breaches report, Jeff.
Thank you, Chairman. I know you're used to receiving this report nowadays, board members. You know the rationale for it. We're required, and pension regulators' requirements to report breaches to the committee and then subsequently to yourselves. I'll only just highlight the breaches in respect of the most recent period, and if you would like to turn to page 55 and 56, that's where they're annotated. The types of breaches board members will be used to by now in terms of late contributions tends to be the one that garners most attention and questions. And you can see on page 56, again, four employers made late payments, and you can see in detail there in the table below on page 56 details of those 4 late payments. One of them was material in value, over £250,000 there you can see from an unnamed college, but we're satisfied that it's a one-off reason. It was a staff member being on long-term sick, and his or her colleagues were unaware of the timeliness requirements in respect to that payment. So you can see on both occasions it was only a day late. So it's not as if they sat on their hands and did nothing. When notified of it being late, they obviously actioned it. So in terms of causing concern, it doesn't cause any long-term material concerns. And the others are immaterial in value, and also again understandable because they are again in relation to very, 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 very small employers who are dealing with pension contribution in respect of literally a handful of members, sometimes only 1 or 2 members. So again, the risks are low, and again you can see they're not abnormally late. When notified of their late payment, they've actioned them. In respect of the first one, they've been a day late. In respect of the second one, a week or so, and again, no cause for massive concern. It's just one of those things in relation to them being quite lightly resourced in that department. They're not huge payroll departments. They're as you can see, they're community councils or small admitted bodies. You've probably got the same individual making the payment as sweeping up the community hall at the same time. So they are low risk, and although not acceptable, understandable.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions, comments arising out of the breaches report? Again, I can't see any indications or hear anybody. Jeff, the iConnect issues mentioned in the report, I see the report takes us up to February 24. Can you give us an update on the iConnect issues, whether they're continuing as of now, what the situation is?
Thank you, Chairman. The iConnect issue is just to remind local pension board members, the pension administration software is a system called Altair, and we use that to maintain and record individual member records. So when you join the scheme, date of starting, your payroll information, contributions that we receive from you, number of years that you've been a member of a scheme, etc. That's sacrosanct. That is cloud hosted by a third-party provider. That's over 90% of the LGPS use. That is the core source of information for member records. To update that, we require on a regular basis, and it's a monthly basis in respect of our larger employers, a feed, and that's called an iConnect file. So an iConnect file is an electronic file, largely driven by the payroll information from each employer, because the LGPS is very much driven by payroll data, i.e. how much you paid, how long you've been paid that amount, and your period of service, etc. So largely to your earlier point, Chairman, about human intervention, we try and remove human intervention as much as possible, and we established this iConnect file a number of years ago, and all our larger employers use iConnect to submit that payroll information along with their contributions. Each employer's payroll provider varies. They have different payroll providers. Each employer is at liberty to engage with whichever payroll provider they may wish. However, the iConnect file needs to be in a certain format for Altair to be able to accept it into its systems and upload it. So there's a bit of work to undertake to fetter the output from that payroll file for it to be able to be accepted into the Altair system. The largest employer within the scheme, i.e. Swansea Council, has updated its payroll system recently. And as a result of that, there has been some issues with that output file for iConnect. It's been a long-running saga, has been a cause for concern. However, it has been resolved now. And as we speak, the backdated files are being run into Altair as we speak. It was causing concern as we ran up to year end, because obviously Karen and her colleagues are busily now closing down the year's accounts and compiling the annual report that I referred to earlier. And we very much need that information from the underlying employers to be inputted to provide accurate information for joiners, leavers, new starters, fortunately deaths, etc., etc., for that Altair system to be up to date. So luckily, and I must admit it did cause some sleepless nights, but luckily that system is that interface has been successfully resolved. It was never a question of it not being resolved, because there were some workarounds that we could have implemented, i.e. go back to the manual process of bringing in those files rather than the automated iConnect process. So there were contingencies there. However, again, with reference to your point earlier on, Chairman, about reducing human intervention where possible, it's always better that the automatic integration process is used, so that auditors can have comfort that it is an automated process in that regard. But to your question, it's up and running, and I think with the following wind, all the historic iConnect files have been uploaded by now.
Thank you, Jeff. That's really good to hear, and I think we could almost hear the relief in your voice as you said the problem's been resolved. So the pensioners who have had a late payment, they've been compensated by interest being added on. What interest rate was used there? Do you know?
Sorry, Chairman. If a member can demonstrate and provide evidence of any losses they've incurred in respect of that late payment, they'll be reimbursed for any losses incurred or charged by their bank. But in terms of normal interest payments as a result of it's base plus, I think it's base plus a margin. I think, Chairman.
Okay, thanks. And base being quite good at the moment. Okay, thank you very much, Jeff. That is good news. Unless there's anything anybody wants to add on that, and I'm not seeing anything, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is Swansea Fund Business Plan.
Thank you, Chairman. In line with best practice, we also produce a business plan, again outlining our work program for the coming year, and within our business plan, we also include the risk register, the approved asset allocation, and the budget as well. You may ask, oh, well, where's the trading plan, which is in the WPP business plan, but it doesn't appear in ours. We present a separate training plan report to committee, and that'll be due at the next committee and subsequently board, where we outline again all of your statutory duty to ensure that you're adequately trained and have the knowledge and skills and experience to discharge your roles, but also our duty as the admin authority to ensure that you are adequately trained and have the adequate knowledge and skills to discharge your role. So it's a dual responsibility both on yourselves and us as the admin authority to ensure that you're appropriately trained. But that'll be subject to a separate report, Chairman. So the business plan in material terms starts on page 68, and again, lots of the items here are boilerplate annual items that you'll see every year. However, a couple of them have been long running, and you receive reports and updates about them throughout the year. Number 6 on that page, finalised GMP reconciliation, April 2024. We're pleased to report that has been completed as we speak. So it's ahead of schedule there. That has been long running. That's primarily been due to the problems that HMRC are experiencing in providing the information required to reconcile the records. It's been well documented across all media channels about the travails of HMRC, and in that exercise has been 2 or 3 years that we've been undertaking that exercise with our admin teams, and thankfully we can draw a line under it now, and members shall be written out to within the coming weeks about the changes in their pensions payable as a result of that exercise. The GMP reconciliation is that it's a guaranteed minimum pension promise as a result of contracting out a number of years ago, and is to ensure that the appropriate GMP is paid to the member, and ensure the right GMP is paid to the member. So it could be that a member has experienced overpayment during this period, but also a member could have received underpayment during the period. So there'll be a degree of rectifying those records where appropriate. And again, item 8, implement the McLeod remedy. Obviously, the judgment has been received, but we're waiting upon the technical remedy that we can implement via our system Altair, that can allow us to amend those records and amend the information held in respect of that. Obviously, just remind you, the McLeod remedy was an equal pay claim based on gender, arising due to a legal case a number of years ago about dates and cessation of certain protections within the scheme. It was gender inequitable in that respect. And then again, relating to an email that hopefully local pension board members should have received from Karen to date about a hold the date in July, and that's about some training to be received in respect of the work which is identified here in respect of implementing the investment strategy, and that training is in respect of the natural capital and net zero impactful investments in respect of the new investment strategy that the committee approved at its previous meeting, and how that shall be implemented going forward. So it's an important piece of training, and I'd politely request that all local pension board members attend if they can, because the chairman knows he attended the training a number of years ago. The outputs and the determinations arising from that training very much help shape the implementation and structure of the investments subsequently going forward. And I'm sure the chair will endorse the effectiveness of attending that training, and they're very much the very welcome input from board members and committee members coming together like that. And another item an important item that I want to bring to your attention is number 20. Again, the pensions regulator has again emphasised the importance of being resilient in terms of your cybersecurity arrangements and how effective those controls that you have in place. We very much, as Swansea Council, being the admin authority, very much rely on our colleagues in our ICT department to provide that overarching comfort and support. We very much leverage on the systems that they have in place. And they're very much on board on this item that we've identified here, in that we will be formulating an ICT cybersecurity policy for the first time for the fund separately. And then when that policy is up and running, we will be implementing in year a war game type scenario, whereby those systems of controls will be tested and we'll have people trying to infiltrate those on a friendly basis, obviously, because we're controlling it. But hopefully it will be a real test of those systems of control, and we're working alongside our partners, our actuarial advisors and partners Aon, and helping us deliver that testing and war game testing in due course. So that work has started, and we'll report back to committee and the board about the outcomes of that. That's the first time that we'll be doing that separately for the fund. Obviously, we've got the names, addresses, bank details of 47,000 members. That's useful, valuable data that nefarious third-party people want to get their hands on. So it's important that the outcome of this piece of work is robust and provides the comfort that the board and committee are seeking in that regard. And then on the next few pages, then, Chairman, are the risk register in respect of the fund, and then we can see then on page 74, you can see it's quite light in terms of the asset allocation and benchmarks, etc. It's light and hasn't been completed for a reason, in that a formal paper will come outlining any revisions to those benchmarks. The asset allocation won't change, but any revision of those benchmarks in light of the structural review, which is again in the closed section of this paper, and I'll reference it back then to that piece of work that ties into the target asset allocation. And then on page 75, we have the pension fund budget. Again, largely the top half of that page, membership numbers, income, expenditure, in terms of pension payable, lump sum payable, death grants, etc. They're all a function of the scheme and the statutory pension promises that we make to our members, and the statutory contributions that we're required to collect from our employers. And they're a function of that. However, down the bottom, the admin expenses, these are the sort of quasi discretionary expenses that the fund incurs and are subject to management control. Obviously, as a result of pooling and the ongoing work with WPP, hopefully the investment expenses down there are managed on a downward basis in terms of ultimate basis points paid. But obviously, for a very good reason, they're on an upward trajectory because they are a function of assets under management, i.e., we almost want to be paying more year on year, because that means the assets are growing, and the fees payable are always a function of the assets under management. So in effect, we like to see those fees on an upward trajectory, almost counterintuitively, but not the underlying rate of fees that we pay. That has been on a downward trajectory since we've joined WPP, and we've reported to board and committee previously of the historic fee savings that we've made since the inception of pooling. But in absolute terms, we can accept to see fees rising as a result of hopefully assets growing, and pleased to say that during the last quarter, the fund has breached officially the £3 billion mark, and currently sits, I think later in the agenda we'll be talking about the assets in detail, but it currently sits at about £3.2 billion. So that's another milestone for the fund. Nothing further to add, Chairman. Again, the committee approved the business plan, and happy to take any questions that the board may have.
So questions on this agenda item?
Nothing from me, Chair.
Thank you, Rosemary. And I can't see anybody else indicating. Jeff, you mentioned the GMP reconciliation, and again, I think we detected relief in your voice there. That is very welcome news, and I know an awful lot of hard work by staff must have gone into that. Although that then leaves the issue of over and underpayments. At the moment, are you able to give us any idea of the magnitude of any overpayments, but more more particularly overpayments than underpayments?
Just to be clear, Chair, in respect of overpayments, there's no intention to recover historic overpayments. The intention is merely to rectify and pay them the correct pensions due and under the GMP regulations, because if we continue to pay them the overpayment, that would be illegal. So we're legally bound to rectify it. But just to be clear, we're not intending to recover any overpayments historically. In terms of the level and numbers, could I commit to getting a written answer to you, Chairman? I would have to consult with Claire and my pensions manager in that regard. It is there are a large number of them, to a greater or lesser extent, both over and under.
I tell you what, Jeff, I'm very happy if you could just update us at the next meeting, perhaps, rather than doing a particular piece of work on it.
It is an easy piece of work to undertake, Chair, in that I had notification and I had a copy of the sample letter to be sent to each category of member. So that communication is pending. So to collate the numbers for you should be pretty easy based on the report that produces that mail merge.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think that takes away the fact that you're not going to be seeking recovery of overpayment. Takes away my next couple of questions. I take it the fund as a whole is satisfied that non-recovery of overpayment doesn't result in any particular unfairness to members of the fund as a whole.
It was taken as a view that these overpayments resulted from no fault of the member's own.
Yes,
they're long-standing. They're almost. The view was taken that it would be resolutely unfair to embark on any recovery in respect of it. And when did this come in? This exercise relates from about 2000. So in material terms, it's not a huge number, and the fact that on the flip side, there've been the equivalent underpayments. However, there is the intention to ameliorate the underpayments, because obviously that they are due, those underpayments. But that is the flip side. So it does seem a bit skewed against the fund in that regard, in that we are recompensing the underpayments, but not recovering overpayments. It's been deemed wholly unfair to recover the overpayments where it's been no fault of their own, and should I add, no fault of the fund's own. This is purely an HMRC record keeping exercise whereby they haven't informed us correctly of the correct level of pension that the member is due. So that's where we are in respect to that. And in terms of being consistent with other LGPS, I can only talk about the the pensions officers group in Wales, because they meet regularly and agree policy decisions like this. That's consistent with the other 8 Welsh pension funds in Wales, in that no recovery of overpayment shall be made for historic GMP inequalities.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I think for what it's worth, as scheme member representatives, we fully endorse that approach. Not seeking reimbursement of overpayments, but paying the underpayments. Anything arising out of that? Just on cybersecurity, Jeff, I see that that was the first item in the WPP training plan as well. The training that we've got a date penciled in for, is that the WPP training, or will that be additional separate?
That is purely WPP training, Chairman. We're yet to formulate what sort of input the board and committee have got in terms of the war game that we're going to be implementing. Of course, the committee and board will see that the proposed outline policy that we're proposing to implement. However, in terms of practical involvement in the war game itself, we're yet to because pension fund committee members and yourselves, don't have any operational responsibilities in respect of that. So it would almost be artificial, really, to involve you in that respect. But in terms of the policy, it is quite right that you input into that. And I'm sure ahead of the policy being brought to committee and then board, we may well ask the actuary to come down and give us a session about the TPR's expectations in respect of cybersecurity.
Yes, I think our role there is certainly not participating in any of the wargaming, but reassurance that the exercise has taken place. Unless there's anything else arising out of that discussion, the next item on the agenda is to move the exclusion of the public for the reasons given within agenda item 8. Pausing for a moment, does anybody have any questions arising out of the reasons, in particular the legal reasoning for moving this? I can't see anybody. So would somebody like to move the exclusion of the public, please, so that private items can be discussed?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Niall. Anybody seconding that?
I'm happy to second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Anybody against? I'm seeing no indications. Anybody abstaining? I'm seeing no indications, so that's unanimous that we move into private. Jeremy